Okay.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another Hungover podcast. This week, we're going to be doing some traveling, or maybe not. Who knows? We'll go around the world, or maybe we won't. Why? What determines whether we do this? Well, maybe our passport, maybe our citizenship, maybe visa structures. Whoever knows, it's probably us. We'll continue talking about this topic as we go on through the podcast, but this is Hungover Podcast, which is a weekly show that talks about things that are happening in our world, either globally, like a broad topic, or minuscule news segments. And if you enjoyed this kind of show, please go back, check our other content, and then you can hit that rate, review, subscribe, go to iTunes, leave a review there. Or if you just want to stay tuned, we're going to be talking through a lot of stuff that's happened to us in this past week as well.
Yeah, that is exactly everything that they need to know, Vaughn.
15 seconds or less.
I'm impressed. I think I want to stretch it out a little more by just talking about nothing right now. So, no, I'm kidding. So we start our podcast out every single week by asking each other what we've done during the week and what we drank last night. So I'll go ahead and get started, Yvonne. I've got quite a few things to talk about, you know. It was an exciting week leading up to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It finally came out. And when I say exciting leading up to, I mean it was just dreadful the first 4 days of the week, where I did not do anything interesting and just really wanted to play Super Smash Bros. But I did actually end up watching the Game Awards the night before. Did you get to catch those at all, Yvonne?
I did not. Did you know that there's a Gamers' Choice Awards going on tonight?
Oh, is it tonight? Yeah, of course. We record this podcast live, where you can be part of the conversation at twitch.tv/jujubesgood. The link is in the description below. And of course, you can be part of the conversation, which we absolutely love you guys doing. And we record it live on Sundays, usually in the evening of the Eastern Hemisphere. Well, not the Eastern Hemisphere, sorry, the Eastern time zone of America. That's exactly what I meant. Anyways, Yvonne, so I did not know there was a Gamers' Choice Awards. Are you interested
only knew because I was watching football, and it happened to be there.
Well, the Game Awards was actually a pretty interesting show. I had a lot of fun watching it. I made my girlfriend watch it with me. She even liked it as well. There were some cool game announcements out of it. Specifically, Mortal Kombat 11 was announced there, and Joker from Persona 5 was announced that he will be in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And there were a couple indie games that were announced. There were a couple, I think there were also some larger games being announced as well. And that's all exciting stuff. And of course, not this year, I thought that one game would clean up, but you know, there were so many great games that came out this year. If you just look at the games that were nominated for best game of the year or game of the year, if you chose any of those games, you would have a great time just playing through it. But I believe God of War won the game of the year over Red Dead Redemption 2. I personally thought that Celeste should have stood more of a chance. I really love that game, and I highly suggest anyone who's into 2D platformers play it. But even anyone who's just, you know, trying to get into gaming or is already into gaming, I think it tells a really great story, and they really found a way to integrate gameplay and of course the music is so powerful in the game towards telling the story. And I think it was a really interesting way to tell the story, which is mostly about depression, actually. And I think it really helped a lot of people come to terms with some, you know, depression issues. So I thought that game was truly powerful, and they won the indie game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, which is not as good, of course, as the game of the year, but they were definitely nominated for game of the year. So it was a cool lineup. It wasn't just gigantic multi-billion-dollar games like Red Dead Redemption 2. Celeste was up there against Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War. So I
And
really
it
applaud them for that. It's a
and
great game.
it really had a chance of winning.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it really had a chance, but I and also not to mention Celeste came out in January, so people clearly don't remember it at all. Unfortunately, I do want to play through it again, or at least try the B sides. I had a great time playing it. Anyways, after that, I was also I was when we were I mean, this sort of leads into, I guess, the topic of the show, but I would rather talk about Smash Bros. So let's talk about Smash Bros. First.
All right.
Yeah,
Because I haven't gone yet.
I
So
know. Yeah,
it'd
also,
be a bit cruel.
Game of the Year, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Let's go. No, Game of the Year 2019, maybe. It didn't make the cut for Game of the Year. I think they cut off in November before Thanksgiving or something like that. But this game, holy shit, this is a great, fantastic game. There's so many minute details in this game that really escalate it to an unnecessarily polished level. It's a great step forward from Smash 4 in terms of features and of course the combat, which everyone's ready for. It has 74 characters. I haven't unlocked them all yet. I've been playing for over 20 hours. I haven't unlocked all the characters. And you're like constantly unlocking characters, which is crazy. It's got every character from Super Smash Bros. History. It's got pretty much every stage. And I think there are just so many. It's overwhelming at first. So I think that's what they were trying to do when they, aside from nostalgia's sake, they when you start the game, you only have 8 characters. The original 8, or maybe it was 6, I don't remember, from the Smash 64 game. So you got like Mario, Link, DK, Kirby, Fox, Samus, someone else, Pikachu. There we go. And so that I could see it being outrageously overwhelming if this was your first Smash game. You turn on the game and your first decision is which character do I choose, and there's 74 characters to choose from, so I could see that being overwhelming. Aside from that, it has the classic mode is pretty much revamped, and I think it's for the better. It's way more interactive in that it matters which character you choose. Each classic mode is basically like a fighting game arcade mode, like Street Fighter, where you pick a character and then you fight against the computer at a set difficulty, and then you fight 8 fights and then you fight a boss. This is like that, and Smash has had a mode like this in every Smash Bros. But you end up fighting the Master Hand at the end. And it's generally just a random assortment of characters throughout the thing. This classic mode is cooler because it has tailored matches. They try to tell a story like, oh, you're Link, so you're going to end up fighting... you fight like characters that are like creatures, and then you fight Ganondorf at the end, which is super cool. Or if you choose Mario, you fight Bowser at the end. That's a really cool touch that makes it so much better, I think. There's also the adventure mode, which they add. They have a new adventure mode in this game where you start off with Kirby, and every character is a spirit. They get turned into evil spirits, and so you have to free their souls or whatever. It's interesting, to say the least. You end up collecting these spirits that are of... Basically, they wanted to not have everyone feel bad because their favorite character didn't get into the game. So they have these basically power-ups called spirits, which take the form of your favorite character, like Hal Emmerich from Metal Gear Solid, or X from Mega Man, or just characters, or Garrett from Golden Sun, things like that. Really obscure characters, some of them. Not all of those that I mentioned were at all obscure, but basically you attach them to your character and it gives you buffs in the game, and you can use this in multiplayer as well, not online or anything, but just with your friends. And that's pretty cool. I thought it was a cool idea. The one thing I really miss is that there's no descriptions of each character. So you can spend like an hour plus 10 hour like 10 plus hours in a game like Super Smash Brothers Melee. If you collected all of the trophies and you wanted to read a short biography of each character, and obviously all the miscellaneous side characters, they all have trophies in that game. That's gone now, which I was kind of sad about. That was what it really helped make this game sort of like a Nintendo museum that sort of had, not like an in-depth view of each character, but it was still something that made the game kind of special. You didn't even have to play the game to have fun playing Smash Bros. You would just be reading about cool characters in Nintendo history. It's a really nerdy thing, but I thought it was cool. But it's not in this game. But I guess the real meat of the game is the gameplay, and I really love this game. I think it's in between. So if we have Melee on one end of the spectrum and we have Smash 4 on the other, then it's probably in between. If you hit the halfway point, you're 25% towards Smash 4, I would say. And the halfway point between Melee and Smash 4. So it's not like you can do sort of crazy cool movement and shit like in Melee, but it's also much faster than Smash 4. There's also wave landing. If anyone cares, you can directionally dodge, so you can cancel out that directional dodge animation and sort of slide along the platform if you dodge into the ground. And so that's useful for positioning on platforms. And there's very little landing lag on all aerial moves, so that makes you much more offensively capable. And in order to counteract that, they've added a parry mechanic where you can, if you let go of the shield button at the exact right time, you end up parrying the move and you get to act out of that first. So I think the game will be really competitively viable. I don't know if it'll end Melee's competitive run. I don't know if I don't think the Melee players will gravitate towards this game. I think they'll still be stubborn and love a 17-year-old game. But that's how I feel about Smash Ultimate. I think it's a great game. I'm excited to get better at it, and I'm not gonna let go of Melee. It's still close to my heart, but I'm ready to move on. I'll always play Melee, but I'm definitely ready to move on. So I think this is the game to do it with.
So you think it was a successful?
Yeah, I think it's a very successful game. A blend in terms of gameplay.
Yeah.
I have some gripes with the online modes, but I've already talked enough about Smash. I just wanted to tell you, Yvonne, that I actually drank a few things, this, what was it called? This Friday. Yeah, I drank some things for once.
Yes, Friday.
On Friday. Because it was the end of the semester, and so the professor I work for wanted to go celebrate, but he ended up just merging our group with a PhD group that was celebrating someone graduating, or they got their PhD. So we went. There's this. I did not know that a place like this could exist in Harlem. It's called ROKC. It's a fine cocktail bar, but it's also a Japanese restaurant. But so I don't know. Oh, you haven't seen this guy on YouTube. I'll try to send you a link. But there's this guy that makes really amazing cocktails on YouTube, and he's Japanese, and it's like he'll make his own soda and things like that, and that type. And it's a really fine cocktail. This was probably trying to emulate that guy. I think he works at a bar that's very popular in Japan, and I think this place has drawn some influence from it. I have to say their cocktails were pretty good. So I had 3 bourbon cocktails. One of them was called Smoke. It had bourbon, obviously, ancho rays. I don't know how to pronounce that. Do you know what that. I don't even know what it is. It had Cynar and House Bitters. It was Reyes. Yeah,
That
Reyes.
sounds like some sort of chile.
Yeah, it was definitely a little. I mean,
Oh, it's a chile. It's an ancho chile liqueur.
liqueur. Okay, that's. It was definitely a liqueur because
Oh
bourbon
man, this
doesn't
is so weird.
have. It was amazing, Yvonne. So let me tell you how they serve
It's
it.
smoked poblano
Ooh,
taste. Should
I
have
love
that
poblanos.
liqueur. I've never heard of it. Like I know like
Yeah,
ancho chiles, but I've never heard of it being turned into a
a
liqueur.
liqueur.
That's super interesting.
It was very good. If you ever come down, another place we have to go is this place. Pretty good. If we're up in Harlem, which we would never be. But anyways,
No.
this place worth going
Literally
to.
never.
No, it's just where I work.
So far away.
But this, I mean, aside from the chili, they I don't know if you've seen these cocktails with the smoke on top. So the way they do that, I believe, is they light a I don't know, like a smoking chip that you would put in a smoker or something, or just some wood, and they put a glass or a conal shape on top, and then once it's filled with smoke, they'll invert that and then put that on top of your drink as well. That's what they did. So they served it in like a whiskey glass, and they had the large ice cube in it, the which with the large surface area, and then they had the smoke cone on top of it, and then when they took it off, the smoke remained inside the glass. So there was
That's
smoke.
so fancy.
It was out of control. No, I was not expecting this. I was like, oh, I'm going to get dinner with the professor I work for during the semester. This will be fine. I did not expect to get 3 really nice cocktails. That was a great drink. The smoke really, I think the whole idea behind this cocktail and most of their cocktails is to stimulate more than just flavor senses, while you're drinking the drink. So the smoke helped, make the drink seem smokier. So it was like a smoky, the smokiness that you would get from a scotch through your nose, but a smooth bourbon flavor. So it was I guess the best of both worlds in that respect, even though I don't really like scotch because it's too smoky. This was nice because it wasn't like overpowering in terms of flavor, in smokiness. And it was obviously a smooth drink, as a good cocktail is. And then as the ice melted, it got smoother and smoother because it got more dilute. The next drink I had was called a brown derby. It had bourbon, honey, grapefruit, and Peychaud's bitters. So I guess that's just a bitters. I don't really know why they had to specify which bitters.
Because there are like a billion types of bitters.
Yeah, I know. But
How do you spell it?
Peychaud. Apostrophe
okay.
S. Yeah.
Yes. I know these.
I can't tell you I know the difference between these bitters, but it was a great drink. This drink, let's see. Yeah, this I mean, with the grapefruit, it was a really nice addition. It had give a nice citrus flavor to the drink, and the sweetness of the honey sort of helped mesh everything together between the bourbon and the grapefruit. I thought it was a nice drink. And the last drink I had was called a paper plane there. Maybe one of my favorites there, because I've only had 3. But it had bourbon, Aperol, Amaro, and lemon. So I love Aperol.
I actually have never had Aperol.
You gotta have some. I highly
as it might
suggest buy a bottle. It's super. It's not like an expensive spirit.
No,
it's worth getting.
What do you use Aperol in? Is that in there?
You can put champagne. I think that's Campari in a Negroni, but on the back of the bottle they give you a suggestion: just mix it with champagne or prosecco. It's great. Aperol, it's a really complex flavor between. So it goes in sweet. When it hits your tongue, it's sweet, but then it becomes bitter at the end. So it's bittersweet, I guess.
It has rhubarb stuff
Yeah,
in it.
and that's why you get some bitterness, the rhubarb, and also the sugar balances it out. It's a
sold
really
by the
nice
Campari
spirit.
drink, the Campari company.
Yeah, they're the same company, if I'm not mistaken. It's really great with bourbon. Apparently, I'm gonna try to make this drink actually at home. It had Aperol, bourbon, honey. Wait, no, Aperol, bourbon, and lemon. So I don't have Amaro, but
Is Amaro the South African thing?
I think so, actually. Yes, it is. That's almost exactly what I knew it. I was like, I know what that is. Amaro is great. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had it before.
Yeah,
at your place because brought back a bottle of it.
Yeah,
we taste tested it.
It was great. Yeah, it had a little bit of it. It wasn't a lot. But that was a really great drink. It's very refreshing, and I would love to have it again. So I'm gonna try to. I think I still have some Amaro.
No, that's Amarula.
That's Amarula. Oh,
yeah.
That's the root that the elephants like to eat, right?
What is Wait, how do you spell this?
Amaro. Wow, we don't know what we're talking about on the
No,
Hungover
we're fucking lost. Oh, so these are all Italian herbal things.
Okay.
Because okay, so
yeah,
Aperol, Amaro.
Amarula is more milky, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting it.
This drink is great. I highly suggest you try to make something like it on
Amaro is the Italian word for bitter.
Oh.
It is an Italian herbal liqueur that is commonly consumed as an after-dinner digestif.
Yes, most Italian liquors or spirits are either aperitifs or digestifs. What's up, Suggestions? Welcome to the show. His favorite parts of the show are when we talk about alcohol. It's absolutely true, you know.
Yeah. So an example of a style is Fernet Branca.
Fernet Branca. Oh, okay.
Which is a really
that's common. That's
weird, digestif, I guess.
Even if we don't know what we're talking about, we definitely don't know what we're talking. But we're learning as we go ahead in this podcast.
Yes, we are doing the investigative journalism, so you know.
The last thing I had, which was last night, I drank a lot this weekend for some reason.
I know, this is surprising.
This is very surprising. So we went to a Japanese restaurant last night in Brooklyn, and I drank like a whole bottle of whiskey, of sake by myself. 300 it's 300 milliliters. Still a lot. Definitely
not too bad.
More than I thought it was. And I'm a scientist. So
well, at least
I
you don't
know
have to drive anywhere.
Yeah,
in the
no. So it was called Shirayuki, and it's a Junmai Jinjo sake. Ginjo? I never knew how to pronounce that. And I don't know how to read the Japanese yet, so I won't be able to. Very smooth. Worth
Snow
getting.
White with the red hair?
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
There's an anime character named Shirayuki. When
Oh,
I tried
that's
to look it
hilarious.
up.
That's good. Very good. So yeah, I like that sake. I think it's worth getting if you see the restaurant. Smooth and straight to the point. It's a sake, all right? Well, you want to get it with sushi or something. Anyways, Ivan, I've taken up too much time. After you. I've seriously have.
So getting into kind of like doing these different taste testings of different things. So as we all know, I've stocked my bar.
Yes.
So
Very
I
exciting.
make drinks at home, and I've been experimenting with different flavor settings. I've been making all sorts of different simple syrups, as we have detailed before. But I also am investigating trying to make different cocktails that I haven't made before, and then playing with them, as it were. So, as we all know, I enjoyed the French 75.
Yeah.
Now, the French 75, to review, gin or cognac with champagne, simple syrup, and lemon juice.
That sounds great.
The first time I had it, it was delicious. And
The second time, it sucked.
no, it did. It
really?
sucked. Yeah,
Whoa.
the second time it absolutely sucked.
Wait, was it because Who was making it which time?
I made it. Well, the two times I made it at home, 3 times now. So the
Oh,
first time I made it with Shandong
okay.
California Brut. So Shandong has brought their
Yeah.
winemaking to California.
Mm-hmm.
It relaxes some of the costs, makes it more affordable. It's actually a pretty delicious sparkling wine. I
I'm a
highly
big
recommend
fan
it.
of most sparkling wines, so I'll have to check that one out.
Um,
Nice.
and it worked really well in the French 75. It was very crisp. It had just the amount of tartness that you needed to really have everything come together. And I made it with a traditional gin. And I was like, okay, this is delicious. So this is a cocktail that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's a cocktail that's put alcohol with your alcohol.
Those, I mean,
S-
what?
so
let's
those
let's make
it,
this alcohol smoother by adding more alcohol to it. That's
right. It's
essentially
like, what is a Long Island iced tea? It's some guy who is down to the last little bits of his bottle, and he put of
put
all
it
these
on.
bottles, he
I
put them
gotta
all
finish
together, and
all
it
of
was
this
just
now.
like, huh, this is like an iced tea. Oh, delicious.
And then
That's
he
exactly
died.
what that was. I mean,
Then he
I
died.
can't imagine how else you're just like, how do I fucking make this drink?
God damn it.
Just some fucking wino who is just down to his last bottles of all sorts of alcohol.
Oh my
But
god.
so I explored this with I think it was a sparkling. It wasn't a cava. It was like a sparkling Rioja.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about last night, I think. Or
Yeah, and it sucked.
okay. Okay.
Um, it was god awful. Like you
Was
could
it
taste the
because of
different components.
the wine?
Yeah, I think it was because the wine.
Which you so it's like the sum of the parts were it was a bad thing to mix.
Yeah. So I tried it with gin first, and I mixed it super traditionally by the book of the recipe that I have,
Mm-hmm.
the cocktail recipe, and it sucked.
Mm.
The gin was overpowering. The wine was wrong. It didn't provide the correct flavoring that I needed, and it was like too sweet without being sweet enough to like be good, and not
Ah,
tart enough at all. Um,
sheesh.
so it was like it was a weird it's like it's kind of like a sparkling Pinot Gris type taste with
Whoa.
all of the herbaceousness of like a gin in there. It
Oh,
was
okay.
just
Yeah, no, that would be
fucking gross.
good.
Um,
Even
and
though
so
you
then
can mix gin and like grapefruit juice and it's fine.
if I'm
Not that
gonna grapefruit juice is was way different than like
I'm
wine,
not
like
saying
grape
I
juice.
know, I understand. Yeah, okay, yes. Confirmed. Grapefruit juice is not wine. Yes. But
Thank
I'm
you. All
I'm
right.
saying that you can
Yeah.
get a lot of citrus flavors sometimes from Pinot Grigio or
Maybe I should
fruitier
have. Maybe I should
flavors.
have done more lemon.
Less gin. Or no, same gin, more lemon then.
More lemon, a little bit more simple syrup probably would have saved it. But I was just like, fuck it, I'm doing this by the book. So the next time I tried it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this time with bourbon because I don't
Okay.
have cognac on hand.
Close
My
enough.
idea was that cognac and bourbon are probably the closest other pairing that I have.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Man, was that just almost undrinkable?
Really?
It was so bad.
Whoa.
So I plan to never buy this sparkling wine again.
Okay, so
Um,
it's this specific wine maybe.
Yeah,
It's just
I'm
bad.
just blaming the wine. I'm still in love with the French 75. I've had it 2 different times successfully. One with like I think it was it's a sparkling wine that has a light blue label that's pretty cheap. It's like I forget what it is now, but it's not that
Okay.
expensive. It's pretty decent. It's pretty sweet, so it kind of blended everything together. Really, it like masked all the flavors. It was just like you're just gonna taste sweetness. But I really like the Chandon Brut was really good. So I plan on going more like a
You
French profile
Yeah,
for
well,
sparkling wine.
I mean, the name it's in the name.
I thought I could play in around
No,
like
no,
a
no,
Vichy
no.
France meets
Not with a
fascist Spain.
French recipe, all right? You can't mess around with these people, all right? They get crazy. Croissant.
Figures.
You can't change the recipe.
I also tried. Have you had the Carmenere grape?
No, I
So
actually.
it's supposed to be a Chilean wine.
Oh yeah, okay. I don't know much about Chilean wines aside from they're very robust.
So,
Red wines, a lot of red.
Yeah,
wines
this
from
is a red wine.
I'd like to know more about South Africa. South African wine, but South American wine.
South African wine, I think
It's
you
great.
have to start with the white wines, and they make a really really good blog.
I like the Hermitage grape from South Africa. You know this?
the Vidal Blanc, I think.
Okay.
I don't know
It's
specific...
native to South Africa, so you can only get Hermitage wines. Oh, sorry. No, it's not Hermitage. Hermitage is it's a blend between Pinot Noir and a Hermitage. Fuck.
Dude, we sound like fucking morons right now.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my god.
What's it called?
A Chenin Blanc is
Pinotage. Sorry.
Pinotage, there
Pinotage,
we
you
go.
know.
Oh,
But
I
it's
know
a blend.
Pinotage.
So Pinotage is half Hermitage and half Pinot Noir. So that's why I sound like an idiot, because I don't know what that is. That's one of my more favorite red wines. I like that grape. But yes, keep going about it.
The South African Chenin Blancs, peak Chenin Blanc. I think
Cool.
they're just as good as French. But the Carmenere was an interesting wine to try. I don't think the version that I had the Castillo del Diablo or whatever, the very cheap version of it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of this Chilean version of this French grape, but it was pretty decent. I would say, as far as South American wines go, I'm far more impressed with the Malbecs and the classic kind of South American.
We don't talk about
fare.
Malbec on this podcast. Just a joke. Sorry. Bad joke. I was actually a really bad joke. Sorry. It's just a really bad joke. Anyways.
What's interesting, though, is that apparently the Chileans have preserved the Carmenere grape because it was mistaken for Merlot.
I meant
and it
Merlot.
was... Yeah, no, I figured you meant Merlot.
Yeah, I know.
It was accidentally brought to Chile and then grown there. So Chile has a very vast...
they have the roots.
Carmenere grape.
The roots have been there forever. Right?
Yeah, at least
That's how they do
150
it.
years. God, we're fucking morons when it comes to wine, hey?
Yeah, we'll get better as we go, though. But
oh
Ivan,
my god, is it so hard to actually like? So there are. So let's talk about.
How would you suggest learning
vino
more
culture.
about wines?
So the best way to learn about wines, in my opinion, is just taste a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And taste them. Like, really concentrate on what the flavors are and, like, a variety of things. If you have local, like, a wine growing region or something, those are the best things to do. A lot of times, like, local liquor stores or wine stores will have tastings.
Absolutely.
And, like, being guided through that process at a winery or at a wine store or liquor store is a good way of doing it. Because most of it, honest to God, is about identifying what words go with what tastes, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about acidity, minerality. You're talking about...
does it taste like dirt? Does it taste
butter.
like butter?
And these all sound
Is
super
it a
pretentious
trash
because
wine?
because you've been listening to a whole bunch of like assholes talk about this kind of stuff. But it really does help determine what kind of wine, like figuring out what it is about wine that you enjoy other than getting drunk. And then you can apply that to, okay, I like this kind of taste, so I can get these different kinds of wines. And then you get to experiment and play around. And I think that's a lot of fun.
I think I agree. I 100% agree. I think to elevate that experience even more, pair it with some food. Get to a tasting that does it taste like dirt or does it taste like butter? Those are the only two flavors that you can get from wine. But I think that if someone helps you, if you can get someone to help you out, whether or not it's a professional that you pay or one of your friends, to pair a meal with a particular wine, if they know what they're talking about, of course, then I think that will help you out, help you understand why wine exists in the variety that it does, and also why people still like it, years after its inception. So I think food is 100% why wine is still drank at the dinner table. Obviously,
I think
that
it's
was a bad
the
joke.
French.
Sorry, it's the podcast of bad jokes from Juju over here. Let me tell you, Vaughn,
Maybe you should leave the country
I
with
think,
all your bad jokes.
I think there's one other way that you could learn about wines, and that's maybe traveling to where the wines are made. Traveling to a winery in a different country, maybe. I think that.
Because I was just
going to
say, let's go to the Finger Lakes. So we can take a tour.
Yeah,
It's
that too.
an hour and a half away from me.
I would love to do that as well, because I want to learn more about wine. But Ivan, if you want to learn more about the world, you got to get out there. You got to get out there. So today, I think, unless you have more to talk, you probably do. I just cut you off.
No, it's all right. We can move on. I'm watching James Bond. It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah,
Let's keep going.
We'll talk about James Bond next week, because you'll have seen all of them by then. But Ivan, we wanted to talk about travel in America and why Americans don't necessarily travel as much as, say, Europeans do, and I think. I've
we're
been
a bunch
thinking,
of lazy people.
I've been thinking about this lately. I think that's partially true, but I've been thinking about this lately because I'm actually going on a big travel for myself. In the next,
God.
I'm traveling next month. I'm going to be going to Korea to visit one of my friends and hopefully my cousin. So I'm going to Seoul, and then I'm going to travel down to a volcanic island called Jeju, which is on the south coast of Korea. It's about a 40-minute flight from Seoul. Korea is not a very large country. South Korea, and of course North Korea as well, is not a very large country. So I mean, it's about the length of like New York or something. New York is basically bigger than South Korea. That's not necessarily true, but so I'll be checking out Jeju, which for a little bit, for like a night, and of course I really just want to go down there to see my cousin. I haven't seen him in like 5 years because he's been living in Korea. So I'm excited to see him and his family, and that's that kind of stuff. And I'm excited to go to Korea. But I'm also going to be going to Japan while I'm there, because Japan is so close by. So I'm going to be going to Tokyo as well. And so this is pretty much like, this is definitely the first international travel I've ever done without my parents. So I'm very excited and a little nervous and a whole bunch of different emotions going through me. So as a consequence, I've been thinking about travel a lot, and I've been thinking about why haven't I traveled more in my life? Why is it like this? I've traveled. I mean, my parents have taken me to many different countries, but I feel like I haven't traveled at all since I stopped living with my parents and going on summer vacations and things like that. As I started getting a job, I don't have a job. I'm a student still. But as I started living on my own and caring for myself and paying rent and things like that, I'd stopped. I haven't really traveled in a long time. I went to Boston recently, but I don't think that necessarily counts. Going New York to Boston, it's not much of a travel. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that topic up to you, Yvonne, someone who has moved a lot in your life, and you weren't
Yeah.
even born in America. I think that's a very unique perspective. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts about travel in America. Have you met many people who travel a lot, who are Americans, and things like that? I don't know where to start here. But
well, for multiple reasons, I think that I do. First off, I'm
why
an
do we
immigrant,
travel? That type of thing.
and immigrants naturally tend to find other immigrants.
Yes.
And immigrants in America tend to be people who are a bit transient. Either they move around within the U.S. or move back and forth or visit their home country and come back or things like that, depending on what kind of visas or whatnot they have. Plus, my parents are scientists. Scientists, by their very nature, are very international.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of travel to different universities or giving conferences and people talking. Like, science is a global community.
It's mostly just Chinese and Indian, but yes, it is global for sure.
Sure. I mean,
Just,
my
sorry.
dad's given
Again,
talks
bad
and conferences
joke.
in Germany, Italy,
Bad
and France.
joke. Sorry.
But they were also mostly to Indian and Chinese audiences.
Exactly.
Because
That's
the Chinese scientists are also taking the opportunity to go visit Europe.
Absolutely.
Joking but true.
Yes.
So, yeah, I guess, I mean, in my more adult life, like, I guess since I've turned 18, I've only been out of the country really I lived in Istanbul for 6 months.
Yeah. That was during college, right?
Yeah, South Africa for 2 months.
That was
grad
huge.
school. And I lived in Turkmenistan for 3 months after grad school.
Right. That's very exciting.
So my suggestion is if you can go to another country, get paid to do it.
Yeah.
That's my parents were gracious enough to be able to afford to pay for my study in Turkey, for instance, but I was paid through my grad school program to go to South Africa, and I had a job in Turkmenistan. So I really enjoyed that whole perspective of going to another country for extended periods of time and getting to know people and culture a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I haven't really been able to like travel on my own internationally, for instance.
Right.
In such
That's
a manner.
Very expensive thing to do from America.
Yeah, there's
right?
just like, I mean, you can find super cheap flights and different things, and if you have like travel alerts, sometimes like airplane companies just F up, and their system is like, oh, you can $20 ticket to different places. So Google alerts are your friend when you want to travel internationally.
So,
but I just think it's really expensive because America is so isolated. Versus like if you're a European and you have a European Union passport, you can travel all over Europe super easily because there's a really nice train system where you can go everywhere, cheap and fast. And for instance, my parents were just in Germany, and they used the train system to go different places. They were in Austria for a day and then came back to Germany and were just traveling around. I think there it's really easy to travel around, and you think, oh, we're going to different countries, it's Europe, blah, blah, blah. But it's just the same as, like, if you really take it into perspective, the amount of difference in terms of territory of the entire continent of Europe is not that much different than the United States. The United States is fucking huge.
Right, absolutely.
And so going from, if you have the ability to travel from, like, New York to see the Grand Canyon, that's also a huge trip, you know?
Yes.
It's very different climate. It's a lot of different things. Like, I was marveling at this with the people that I work with because on the movie, one of them was from LA and was traveling to San Diego through Atlanta. and it was blizzarding when he left, and the leaves hadn't changed in Atlanta yet. And then he was flying to San Diego, and it's just like,
Where
this is a crazy
desert.
large country with such a diverse group of people that I think when it gets taken into like, oh, I've been to this many states or I've traveled around the United States, it gets taken as like, oh, you've only visited your own country. And especially European people will look down on that because it's so easy to go between countries in Europe. And I think that is a detrimental way of looking at it. Like, yes, passports are important. Yes, it's important to visit other cultures and get to know different people, and it expands your mind and really allows you to interact with different things. But it's also important to recognize how vastly different it is to go to like a crawfish boil in Louisiana versus like a barbecue in Texas, or like
or get
sushi in New York
poutine
City.
up in not where what's just south of, like in Michigan, or Wisconsin, there's probably a lot of good poutine or something. I don't know. Yeah, I absolutely agree. A lot of I think a lot of Americans may not even realize how many different uniquely American cultural things go on in different places in America, and I think that's something that a lot of people from around the world come to visit America for. Like they go to New Orleans to get Cajun food a lot. That's a huge tourist spot. They go to Texas to get barbecue.
Niagara Falls.
They go to
so
Niagara
often.
Falls to
it's
see.
crazy how many
falls,
international people
which
just
are,
come to see water falling into the earth.
I've seen it too. It's amazing. It's crazy.
Just like, I never go because it's just like there.
Yeah,
it's a thing that we only go to if like other people are in town.
I can't wait to go next time I visit you. No, and you're right. That it is true that we should turn and look inward on our own country, and understand there's a lot of great things to experience in this country, culturally, and and the like, and physically. There's a lot of great. I would
like
call them
I've never been
wonders.
to California.
Neither
or like
have I.
the West Coast. Like, I think that's kind of a detriment to my life, really.
Not to mention, it's such an important part of what America exports as a whole. We sort of typically think of America exporting culture and pop culture specifically to the rest of the world, and there's a lot of that type of stuff originated in LA and places like that. Of course, on the East Coast, we've got New York and places like that export.
And Atlanta now.
And Atlanta, I'm like super excited
the rap
about.
Capital of the world now.
Yeah, I'm not specifically talking about rap. I'm talking about plays and other types of music. But yes, those are two huge capitals of the world in terms of exporting in America, anyways, that export culture across the world. So that's somewhere I would love to visit. I want to go to LA and San Francisco as well. But yeah, I think that part of the reason why, though, that I don't travel specifically, I obviously can't speak for anyone else, is, I've been a student for a long time, and I don't really get that much time off. I saved up a 2 weeks of time off to go with my girlfriend to Korea and Japan. I'm very excited. And maybe I shouldn't be going now because I'm writing my thesis, but I'm going. So I think it's really, I think it comes down to how we work culturally in America. I think that we value working our asses off for some reason, and or I mean, not necessarily everyone values that, but I think generally you value our employers expect American employees to work 9 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday, and then rinse and repeat, right? And there's very little time off that you can get, and then to go travel. So when you finally get that time off, then you have to be booking traveling time, and you're only going to be given time off during certain periods of the year. So, and those happen to be the most traveled dates. So you can't just go on a whim on that really cheap ticket on a Wednesday. You know what I mean, Yvonne? That $450 flight round trip ticket to Europe that you've wanted to go to forever, and it's finally affordable to you, but you can't necessarily afford it when it's in the summertime because it's actually $1,000. So that's, or at least from America to Europe. So flying from China to Europe, or maybe Northern Africa to Europe, is probably easier, or cheaper. So that's that. I think that, coupled with financial issues and distance, and then the expectation that we need to have to travel further to get to any of the interesting parts of the world, are really a large mental barrier for why I think Americans don't travel as much. I think it has to do with physical isolation, and it has to do with work scheduling and financial costs. So I think that's one of the reasons why, as you see in the background here, we have it's from the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Census. We have from 1989 all the way to 2017, we see a rise in American passport issuement. That's not a word, but the amount of Americans that have passports is still under 50% in 2017, according to the census. Of course, not everyone writes into completes the census, but I think it's still generally a good survey, or it's the easiest way to survey things like this across America. So we're going to be using this. So it's still under 50% of Americans can even leave this country. So I think that's an interesting statistic. Although since 1990, it's gone up by 40%. So that's amazing. I'm glad that more people are trying to travel.
Yeah, I also think that we can see that the rise of travel is based on the fact that you have to have a passport to go to Mexico and Canada.
Yes. You can actually get a passport card, which is, I would assume, America's version of the European Union passport. So if you have the passport card, you can get to Bermuda, Canada, or Mexico. So that's something, or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
that is something.
I think it's part of the, it's part of the necessity of being able to travel. I think Mexico is still by far the number one destination for Americans in terms of international travel. And then the second one behind Mexico is Canada.
Montreal, man. Let's go.
Dude,
Toronto.
Quebec is dope.
I like Quebec more, yeah. Poutine?
Montreal is amazing.
I like Vancouver also.
I've never been.
That's as far west as I've gone.
Well, that's
unless
pretty
you count
west.
all the way. No, I know.
That's pretty dang west, Julian.
Does Alaska count as the West Coast? Because then I've been there.
It's the westernmost state and the easternmost state and the northernmost state.
I also hear that. I've been to Alaska. Isn't that crazy? Maybe don't go to Alaska.
No, it's beautiful.
I know, I loved it. It was absolutely a great time.
The way summer, though.
We got there was my dad and I took a cruise. So I guess technically I have been to West Coast. I've been to Seattle for like a day because we were getting on the cruise. He's got this incredibly cheap cruise ticket in the summertime. And we took a cruise up to Alaska. I'm telling you this because cruises are the worst. You're basically stuck on a boat with people, I guess technically
this is your worst nightmare.
Okay, you're stuck on a boat. So I wouldn't go on a cruise unless I was trying to get really drunk, and it was only for a weekend. We were on this cruise for a week. So you're stuck on this boat with the same food and the same people for a week. And these people are from, the middle of America, and they're really just boring people. I don't know. The people that we interacted with were boring. I'm obviously making a gross generalization.
I think you need to go on a cruise
I
if you
wanna
do go, like somewhere where you can go do adventurous stuff and then come
Yes.
back and play your Switch.
Well, yeah, I was in sixth grade, all right? I could just, the Switch wasn't out there, and I couldn't hang out with I couldn't hang out with the kids on the cruise that long. I had to hang out with my dad the whole time. But it was a lot of fun. We went to Juneau and Ketchikan and Anchorage.
I hear that the cruise is probably the most popular way of visiting Alaska.
I think it is. I just don't know if I would do it again, unless I guess I'll be of drinking age next time I do it, because I currently am. And so maybe I'll enjoy it more. But Yvonne, yeah, we were discussing passports and getting from Mexico to Canada. Sorry.
I mean, I still think that that's the majority of the reason why people are using these passports is to get to our neighboring countries, which is fine. It's still, Mexico has a lot of fantastic areas to visit, a lot
Absolutely.
of history. I think that the other thing that I don't know where I'm going with this exactly, but I think a lot of American travel isn't to lesser known hidden spots.
Yes.
I think a lot of American travel is to really well known places. Like if we're not going to Mexico and Canada, we're going to the Bahamas, we're going to Britain, we're going to Paris, Jamaica, we're going Cuba, to Italy.
But... Well, are we allowed to go to Cuba?
Yeah,
we are?
I think it's opened up now.
I thought it was closed back down.
You can always go through Canada.
That's a thing. But yeah, so you're right. I think, but that also plays off of what I was saying. You rarely get this time off that happens to align with a cheap flight. And if you're going to be going somewhere, it's going to be somewhere that you've heard a lot about. From either your friends or somewhere, you've seen pictures of a place, you think it's beautiful, and that's typically going to be a very popular place, so that's why if the very few times a year Americans get to travel, it's really going to be like, oh, let's go to Cancun, man. I really love that place. I went there once in spring break. It was great. I don't know. And yeah, so I mean, it's nuts. I think I really hope that we can sort it out. I don't know how to solve this type of issue.
Is it an issue? Do you think?
I think it is an issue. I think absolutely, Ivan. I think that if you don't travel, if you haven't, had the opportunity to travel, you don't really understand a place and the people from that place until you've gone to that place. I don't think so. And I really think that, if more Americans went to Russia, they'll probably like Russians more, Ivan. That's my opinion. I
mean,
honestly
just
think
go
that.
to Brighton, right?
Yeah, you could go to Brighton.
Just go to Brighton.
But is it the same, Ivan? Is it the same? It's not the same. Because you've been to Moscow. You were born there. Or I don't know where you were born. But
going to a different country, getting to know the people, trying to speak their language, or like trying to accommodate to some sort of local customs or learn some local history, I think always ingratiates you with people, and they get to know you better, you get to know them better, and I think there's that fluid transition. I'm also weird because I'm an immigrant, so like, okay, the worst place for me to be when I work at the cafe that I work at is at the register, because I see everybody's name come up from the credit card, and I'm just like,
where are you?
Fuck, are you from?
You're second generation. Maybe it was just your parents that have that weird name. Yeah.
Just like, I'm like, are you Armenian heritage because your last name ends in an Ocean?
That's hilarious.
Bogosian, you must be Armenian. it's just it's really, I mean, it's interesting. I'm always curious about it, and there's this like weird, I don't know, to me it's a weird stigma because everybody's like, "Oh, where are you really from?" And people are supposed to take offense to that because they're like, "Oh, I'm really American" or whatever.
Okay.
Um,
I whoa.
you know this phenomenon?
I know what you're saying. I usually answer I'm from New York or I'm American, and then they'll try to, yeah, well, what do you mean? Where are you really from? I guess. And like, dude, shut the fuck up. Get out of here. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I'm just like, hey, I'm Russian.
Yeah, that
See,
well, yeah,
but
that
I'm also
answers...
super white, so like nobody asks me. They're
Yeah,
not
that...
just like, hey.
Yeah.
Although there's an Azerbaijani Grubhub guy, and he was like, "Are you?" Without knowing my name at all, he's just like, "Hey, are you Russian?" I was just like, "Yes." How did you know?
That's awesome.
Never heard me speak it. Nothing. It's just like, hey, I know you.
That's pretty
it's
cool.
Like, oh, my nose. It's so Slavic. No, but I mean, for me, I guess, I don't know. I'm an immigrant. I'm always curious, like, where you're from, the immigrant experience, like, what generation are you? That kind of stuff is super interesting to me. And I guess I don't necessarily think about it in kind of the negative aspect of it, because I'm always one to, like, really celebrate, like, different people, where they're from, and I'm always super curious to know about people and places and like cultural differences and cultural similarities, and just like all that stuff is like intensely curious for me. So that's part of where I like going away.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can go to those places and be like, hey, I know where the majority of you are from.
Don't give me any shit. I know where you are from.
You can ask me where I'm from. And I'll say Russia, not America.
Yeah. Suggestion says that some people just know, motherfucker. All right? Some people just know. They got an eye for it. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at identifying where you're from generally.
Right. A lot of people are really bad at identifying where I'm from.
Well, you're Mexican, right?
Right, yeah. I'm totally just a Mexican kid. I get spoken to in Spanish all the time here. And the only reason it's annoying is, well, I guess I don't want to use that word, is I feel like I'm letting them down. Even though I'm not from a Spanish speaking, I feel, yeah, well, when it's been happening to you, when it's happening to you every single day, pretty much for all of your life, you feel like you're letting them down. By this point, it's like
this point, shouldn't you just know Spanish?
Yeah, that essentially, yes. I'm letting myself down. I'm letting them down, even though I'm not from a Spanish-speaking country. And also, well, that's a lie. America speaks Spanish too. Everyone in America. Like, probably 50% of American population speaks Spanish in reality. But, you know, none of my parents are not Spanish at all or don't speak Spanish. And so I just feel like I'm letting them down. They give me the look, you know, when I speak to them back or I just say, no hablas, or hablo, no hablo, españolo.
It's way better if you say no hablas español.
The look. It's
por favor.
Por favor. Don't talk to me.
How come every bad Spanish-speaking accent is, like, Southern? Why is that the go-to?
The Alamo, man. No Pablo Cox Spaniel. Poor favor, dude. Exactly. But yeah, I always feel like I'm letting someone down. It doesn't even matter what language it is. I just feel like I'm letting them down. Because they were asking for directions usually. But
it's like, for me, it's usually I'm initiating the conversation, like, hey, are you from this place?
See, that's pretty awesome. You get to do that.
But hey, like, I'm just like, hey, I'm Russian in America.
Hey,
I'm just curious. But I mean, you're first generation immigrant technically, right?
If yeah,
I
if you
have.
only my mom. My mom's an immigrant, and my dad was
But you're
born
first
here.
generation
Yes, so I guess I'm first
ish.
generation. Even though she spoke fine English by the time she got here, it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah,
my
not that your
parents
parents
knew.
didn't, but
Well, my mom learned English on a more sophisticated level by watching Cheers.
that's
But
awesome.
my dad kind of spoke English. I mean, they both got better at it.
Of course, and
Um,
so did my mom. But yeah,
but I mean, they still like. I'm not first generation American. I'm still.
yeah, you were born in Russia, in the
I'm off the
USSR.
boat. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
Fresh
specific. If
off
you want
the
to
boat.
get of the Russian boat. Yeah, very
Yeah. The one with the wings. But and in this respect, I guess this has kind of become an immigrant identity
Yeah,
thing.
that's
But it
all
really
we're talking
ties
about.
into traveling, right?
Yeah,
Traveling, part of traveling is to see
Is
things and
immigration.
experience things, right? That's why millennials have been known that they're more willing to spend money on experiential costs,
yeah,
travel, things like that, than on physical objects.
right.
And so part of the experience is seeing new things, eating different foods, but part of it is talking and learning other people. That's what's way more interesting to me is like, yes, seeing things that you could only uniquely see in that country or that place are important, but getting to know different kinds of people is kind of way more interesting to me.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree with you. That is why people should travel. I think
But you also live in New York City, which is the greatest metropolitan in the history of the world.
I agree with you too. New York City is that. I really well. I don't know if it's the greatest one, but it's certainly where I call home, thankfully, and it's definitely it's a really special place. I think.
I mean, it's
Nowhere
got
else in the world.
every
is really
pocket
like
of immigrants you can imagine.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually true. It's pretty.
Which
impressive.
is why I call it the greatest metropolitan. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the city is like the greatest city in the world. I actually disagree with that. It's mostly because people from New York are so fucking conceited.
No,
about
they're
New
the
York.
worst. I mean, just
so
talk to
annoying.
me, and you'll understand.
I hate New York people. I don't know why I like you. I mean, it's because of your mother.
Yeah, that's the only reason why, because you like my mom. Well, cool. Ben, she's pretty
But
much a New Yorker
I
at
just
this
think that
point.
New York has such.
She's been living in New York longer than I've been alive, so she's a New Yorker.
But she enjoys the diversity of cultures and people and places that are there.
I
And
don't.
she holds Hong
Fuck
Kong
you.
in high regard too.
No, I don't think she does.
Damn it.
And she definitely. I really want to go to Taiwan, and if I ever bring that up to her, she's like, "Oh, why do you want to go to Taiwan? What the fuck's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh, mom." Okay, I won't go. I'll stay here.
I want
yeah.
General Tso's chicken.
Yeah, that's what I
The
want.
original General Tso's.
General So. Anyways, I feel like this conversation's devolved into something
We
else,
veered,
but
but I still think that it holds true that we want to. For me, travel is important to get to know other people.
Yeah.
And I think that finding different immigrant pockets that we have locally are ways that we can do it in a more affordable way.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
like when I when I was living in Texas, I went to a Turkish restaurant in San
Oh, cool.
Antonio, and I started speaking Turkish. So, like I said, I asked to see the menu and sit down. Everything in Turkish because I had some basic conversational
Yeah.
Turkish. I could order food from a restaurant basically.
And that started a conversation.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
started playing soccer with these Turkish immigrants.
And then your
like
best
every
friend-
Wednesday.
Exactly. So, little known fact about immigrants, they just really want to live, be accepted, and feel at home. And the easiest way to do that for them is just try to speak their language. Little known fact. Yeah, if you even just say hello, just learn one word, that'll start a conversation easily. with an immigrant who's just gotten here. They'll be super excited to talk to you. And then you they're all friendly, right? So you just became friends with them, right, at that point. Hello, Brotendo. We do have opinions. Thanks. But anyways, occasionally we discuss them, like every week. Uh, that's all we do. We're not going to talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, dude. But anyways,
we talked about the beginning of the show.
We did, yeah. Go back and watch the beginning of the show. I discussed Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But yeah, so I really think we've discussed for a while about this topic. I don't want to drag it out any longer. I think maybe we can touch back on this and in the future if anything big happens in world travel.
We'll touch back on it after you do your world travel.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'll probably come back a completely different person.
It happens.
It does happen. But yeah, so thanks so much for indulging my podcast topic, Ivan. I hope you had fun. I hope you had fun talking about
We didn't
travel.
even get to the other side topic that I wanted to get to, which is like
next week.
Selling countries that sell their passports and citizenship.
That's next
real
year,
interesting
next week,
shit, dude.
next year maybe. Actually, we're coming up on the end of this year. But yeah, so I'm excited to discuss more about travel in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Tell us, keep the conversation going in the comment section below if you're watching this not live. But yeah, so we end our podcast every single week in a song in a segment called Hungover Radio. This is where you, the listener or viewer, can send in your music. Hopefully it's a song that you wrote or produced or played an instrument on. Ivan's gone. See you later, dude. And I hope we can share it with the Hungover gaming community. Hope you guys enjoy that type of thing.
Kind of blew my nose really,
it's really
badly there.
Essentially
Sorry.
free advertisement for yourself. But if no one picks a song or sends in a song to gaminghungover@gmail.com where you can send it, I get to pick one. Today I'm super hype on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so we're just going to play the theme song of the game, which has like 14 different versions. So this game is really... We're going to talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate now. This game has an amazing soundtrack. Not only because it draws from literally every 75 different games soundtracks, essentially, but it has like different remixes of every like a lot of different songs, and it's amazing. Masahiro Sakurai, the director of the game, brought in a lot of different composers, video game composers, to write songs, and everyone was super excited to do it. And funnily enough, because they just want to add, I compared this game to the Halo Master Chief Collection in terms of features, not in terms of literally anything else. But I don't know if you remember when the Halo Master Chief Collection was announced. They had sort of a like a Q&A where the fans would ask, does it have this feature? Can you do this feature? Can I play are there mixed up playlists where I get to play different missions from each Halo game? And they're like, yes, it's all in the game. And it happened to all be in the game. It was actually a really cool combination of homage to all the Halo games. But this game has essentially all the features that you would want in a Super Smash Bros. Game, including turning your Switch into an MP3 player for all the Smash games music. So you can listen to any song in the game by putting your Switch to sleep and just on the go. And it's the largest MP3 player that exists in mankind. Yeah.
It is a weird thing.
But I think that's a really cool feature that is often underlooked about this game. And I think it's like one of my favorite features of this game for no reason. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate theme. Contact me if you want to get wrecked in Super Smash Bros. I'm a King DDD main, and I'll wreck all of you.
Nice.
I'm not kidding. I unlocked him, and the game just got unfair at that point. I just had to wreck everyone. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and thanks for doing the podcast with me, Ivan. And thank you for listening or watching. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Bye.